All right, we are back on College Football Addiction with Sports Talk Jay. We're going to talk a little Tennessee, Oklahoma, the game of the week this weekend. Appreciate BetUS for their support in this video. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But, Jay, we've got a big one, and the eyes of the nation certainly on Norman, Oklahoma this weekend.
Oh, yeah, I'm pumped. Major league pumped about this game. I can't wait to see Brent Venables' defense against Josh Heupel's offense, especially since Josh Heupel was fired because of his terrible offense. I love it. It's gonna be epic because you've got two top dogs that are really good at one thing, and it should be outstanding.
Yeah. Do you think how do you, as a coach, how do you prepare? How do you stay like in the moment yourself, right? Like going back home, but then also like, how do you get your team to block out block out what's going to happen for 60 minutes on the field? Because there is more around this game, I think, than really any other game we've had so far this year.
Yeah, I would say you're right. This one's got all kinds of intrigue. That's why game day is going to be there, obviously, and rightfully so. The big thing I want to see is how many people they put in the box to deal with Heupel, because I know if they go light box, that's the conservative way. But if they go heavy box, then you've got it. I'd rather be Josh Heupel in this than Venables.
I liked his we'll talk more about the game in a minute, but I did like his sense of humor. Just saying he expects, I expect them to be quiet out of respect when we're on offense because I'm coming home. I do think that Josh is kind of dealing with it, in a pretty fun way, right? Like kind of poking fun at the fans and understanding that they're certainly not going to be quiet when he gets there. But obviously they want to win the game, but I guess I don't think they're going to boo him when he gets out there.
They absolutely will not. Yeah, they're not going to. They will not boo. They love him.
Yeah,
he brought him a natty. I mean, somebody brings you a natty, you're going to boo. There's no way they boo him. No way. Plus, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, super nice guy. Again, I also don't think about people in Norman as like super. There's some SEC fan bases I think that you'd have to worry about, but and I know they're in the SEC now, so. Oklahoma's looked a little bit shaky. Does that almost worry you in a way that everybody's picking Tennessee? Everybody thinks Tennessee's like they're a touchdown favorite on the road. That hasn't happened since I think the 80s or 90s in Norman. Does that almost kind of worry you that they've looked shaky?
No, actually, as a Tennessee fan, I prefer it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm just looking at it from the fundamentals of it, that their offense has been shaky, which is not good. Our defense has looked good, but granted, we've not gone up against a powerhouse offense and really showed that we could shut it down. So I'm glad that they're not, just their offensive line is shaky. That's a huge benefit to Tennessee because that's our strength as a defensive line. Their strength is also the defensive line. So if they must stop the run. If Oklahoma doesn't stop our run, it's over.
Yeah.
But if they're able to do that, then that's when I think Nico uses his legs because you can't stop our run plus Nico. So it'll be tricky.
We talked about him before that NC State game, and you were really confident going to that game. I don't know if you expected to win by like $1 billion or not, but the show that he put on and they put on in that NC State game, and again, you're playing a much better team this weekend than NC State. But even since then, a couple more weeks of Nico since we've chatted, it feels like the Heisman just ends up being a best quarterback, best player on the best team type award. But if they keep winning games, I mean, he is going to be in New York for that at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's really when you get a quarterback on this level, it's just about maintaining injuries, not getting injured, things like that. With Quinn Ewers, it looks like he's got a minor injury, so they're lucky that they've got a Manning to back him up. That's not a freshman, but yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game. I feel really good about it. Not as good as I did the NC State game, but on the other hand, now that we've seen the NC State game, I just think Nico has scratched the surface of what he can do. I think he's the best quarterback that Josh Heupel's ever had.
Yeah.
And he's blown away by it, and he's being super careful with him. The first 3 games, I mean, my God, he's only played like a game and a half in 3 games. He was out in the second quarter against Kent State. So you might see something outstanding this weekend.
We will get right back to chatting with Sports Talk Jay, but first, let's talk about my friends over at BetUS. Make sure you're depositing with the YouTube 150, that's YouTube 150 code to get 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit. You get 125% on the next two, all of that up to $2,000. They've got some of the best lines in the game. They've got the best customer service in the game. Make sure that you're betting with BetUS this season. When you think about just the path to victory, and I know you feel good about the game, when you expect Tennessee's offense to do fairly well. Now, again, Oklahoma is a defensive team, but we talked a little bit about Tennessee's defense. What's kind of your magic number for the defense? If they can, and Oklahoma's offense hasn't been good, but if they can hold Oklahoma to X, I feel really, really good about this game. And maybe what do you expect them to be able to do on Saturday?
Under 24. I'd like to see them keep Oklahoma around 20-ish. Should be fine. I think we'll get in the 30s. And I know that Oklahoma's got a great defensive line, but their secondary is suspect. And that Nico's the X factor, just like Arnold is for them. Arnold's going to have to run and really become a problem for us, which he can do. He's a very good dual threat quarterback, but he's not going to get the protection that Nico does. So those are the two guys that are really the key to this game.
Yeah, the idea to me of when I try and think about games, I try and think of which team and what their path to victory looks like. Like how does Tennessee get to a victory? How does Oklahoma get to a victory? And it just feels like there are more paths to Tennessee getting there. For Oklahoma to get there, and not to slight them because they still have a lot of talent. Like you said, Arnold could go off. It almost feels like some things have to break right their way. Arnold has to go off. Nico maybe has to be off his game a little bit. Maybe some turnovers or kind of fluke plays go in. But maybe outside of Arnold, is there anything Oklahoma does that worries you offensively, defensively, just wherever?
The only thing that concerns me about Oklahoma is obviously Arnold could have an outstanding game. It's going to be tough. Boy, our defensive line is going to put a ton of pressure on him, and they know he's a runner. So I'm hoping that they stay secure in their lanes and they don't run past him because that's when he gets dangerous. If our edge runners go past him, then he can cut underneath them and you can cause all kinds of problems. As far as their defense, I want to know that we can run against them. I think we can. And if they put too many in the box, then I think they're darned if they do, darned if they don't. Put a bunch in the box, you stop the run, then you're going to let these four wide receivers we have, some of which are 6'5", run in that defensive secondary, it's a decent secondary, but it's our wide receivers. And I told you this last time we talked. They're tough to deal with, and there's a bunch of them.
You don't ever want to look, and I'll ask you, a score prediction here in a minute, but you don't ever want to look too far ahead. But at the same time, you and I are just fans, and so it doesn't bother me to look ahead. Like we don't have to go up and line up on Saturday. But it does feel like there's a certainly a path. Like not even a path. It feels like the expectation for Tennessee right now would be to make the playoffs. Like I almost think if they didn't make the playoff with how they've started and how some of the teams on their schedule have looked, it would almost feel disappointing with how good Nico is, with how Bama struggled with USF, Georgia struggled with Kentucky. Like, not that those are necessarily just surefire wins or anything, but it almost feels like the expectation at Tennessee this year was, hey, let's compete for a playoff spot. And now it's, no, we need to be in the playoffs, or we're not going to be very thrilled in Knoxville.
Yeah, we would be very disappointed if we didn't make the playoff. The two teams I'm most concerned about, Georgia, number one, because they've been the one defense that's been so good they could stop our offense. It's the only defense that's done it. We can stop ourselves, obviously, but Georgia is the one that concerns me the most. Then Alabama, then Oklahoma. This is a game, man. I'm telling you, this is a tricky game. I would much rather be Tennessee in this. And that does not mean that Oklahoma couldn't win this. They've got the crowd. We could have turnovers. Arnold could have a great game. They could stop our run somehow. But I don't know how they stop the run and our passing. I just don't see how you do it. I really don't. You've got to have 5 stars everywhere, like Georgia does. Georgia's figured it out. They stop everybody by having 5 stars at every position and having a great defensive coach. Venables is that, but he doesn't have 5 stars everywhere you look.
Yeah, and they certainly have again, like we mentioned earlier, Oklahoma, now they could come out and play their best game of the year. And for your sake, like we'll hope that doesn't happen. But they certainly have been shaky. And if they're shaky at all against Tennessee, it could turn into, I don't know that I'd pick Tennessee to win by 30, but it could turn into a game where Tennessee wins by 14 or 17, kind of going away, and it's never in question. They probably need to play pretty well to keep this thing close and have a chance late, have a chance for the crowd to make an impact. You think about crowds making impacts. I went to the Swamp and for their week 1 game, and they never got above a dull roar because the crowd, they just never had anything to cheer about. And if that happens this weekend and they can, if Tennessee can get up early and neutralize that crowd, I think they're in, Oklahoma's in pretty big trouble, and it could kind of turn into a rout. So do you have a score prediction yet? Have you put one out? Have you done one?
Yeah,
I know we're kind of early in the week.
I've actually hadn't put it out, but I'll go ahead and do it now. I'm thinking like 34-20 kind of feels right to me. I see them at 20. We need to be in the 30s. I'm guessing that seems very similar to what I think I went 37-24 against NC State, and I was way off. But, that's where I'm at. I'm seeing like 10 to 13 points. But like I said, it's the thing about playing on the road is momentum's is a treacherous thing. You get a couple of turnovers, a pick six, something like that, some crazy thing happens, and all of a sudden Oklahoma and Norman, they're going nuts.
Yeah.
And our guys aren't used to that. We haven't really played on the road all year. Nico's played neutral sites, but he's not played, although claims he loves playing on the road. He likes being the villain, which I like that, but we'll see if he really does.
I remember obviously relate everything back to Florida State, but I remember in 2013, Florida State went on the road, and a true freshman quarterback happened to go to top 5 Clemson, and same thing. Now they'll never be able to score on their defense; they'll never be able to do it. And he absolutely relished that moment, and they put 51 points on Clemson that night, and it was probably outside of the championship later, it was the best night of the year for Florida State fans. So It certainly can be done. But like you said, he says he likes it. Proof will certainly be in the pudding at about 10 p.m. on Saturday night. We'll find out one way or the other. So, Jay, where can folks follow you? Where can they get more of your content?
Sports Talk Jay on YouTube. That's it.
Awesome. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yep. No worries.
Appreciate Sports Talk Jay for taking some time to chat with us. Appreciate BetUS for sponsoring our video today. Hey, we talked to Jay about the new talent fee that Tennessee's putting in. If you want to catch up on that, learn about that, hear some complaints about that, click the video on the screen right now to check it out.